She's an award-winning writer, a hunting guide, archery and rifle instructor, keynote speaker, and all-around outdoors woman who encourages you to get outside, hunt, fish, shoot, and savor all that life has to offer. And now, here's your host, Mia Anstine.
Well, hey there. I'm so happy that you have stopped by to listen to the Mac Outdoors podcast. If this is your first time here, welcome. I hope you enjoy the show. And if you're a longtime listener, thank you for coming back. I sure do appreciate you. You are why we make the show. Today, I have a guest that I always enjoy visiting with, and it's somebody that I think you enjoy too. This guest is from episode 100, was the last time we had her on. We talked about the Girls with Guns Ruger Rendezvous, and we gave a recap there. I will put a link in the show notes to that episode if you want to go back and listen to it if you haven't heard it yet, or maybe you need a refresher, you want to check that out. We will have that in the show notes. If you're listening while you're driving, thank you so much, and I hope that you have a safe trip wherever you're going. But also, I hope you'll make a mental note. If you want to check this episode out on YouTube, there is some video that I will be sharing about what Jen is up to. And you might want to see what it is because it is on the YouTube. And I also wanted to tell you, if you will take the time to go visit Tarn Cap Gear and WSI Sports, I do share affiliate links, and those links help support the show. So I appreciate anything you do there. And without further ado, I hope you enjoy this show.
This summer, whether at the range or in the field, WSI Sports Hypertech bamboo tanks, tees, and leggings will have you covered. Visit WSISports.com to support the show and use the affiliate code MACO10 for 10% off your purchase. All products are proudly made in the USA. WSI is bringing back pride in American-made clothing. Again, that code is MACO10 for 10% off your order at WSISports.com.
Hey guys, are you looking for a stylish concealed carry shirt? Check out Tarn Cap Gear. With print-reducing patterns, concealed carry snaps, and minimal branding, Tarn Cap's cloak of invisibility is what you have been waiting for. Visit mia.limited/tarncap and use the code Anstine for 10% off your purchase. Again, that's mia.limited/tarncap and use code Anstine for 10% off your order. All right. Well, hey there, Jen. Thank you for joining me on the show again. For the listeners, we had Jen on a past episode, which I will link in the show notes. And I saw some new things that you're doing, and I really wanted to share them with the listeners. And I have a million questions, but we will kind of just let you fill us in on the details of what you have going on. Can you let the listeners know?
Yeah, so this year in 2024, I have launched a brand new digital series called LIVin Outdoors. And LIVin Outdoors is named after my daughter, Olivia. And basically, we came up with the idea a couple years ago. I have been doing a digital series, and we were on the Sportsman's Channel and Pursuit for, I think, 4 or 5 years previous to that, but I've been doing this for 10 years. And so it was kind of one of those things where everything's starting to evolve in my life after becoming a mom and the changes that we have. That the Girls with Guns, when my business partner Narissa decided to step back from it, it didn't quite make sense for me on my own because that was something that we did together. And so what birthed out of it was my life, my literally my daily life, which is at home in Northern California. Don't judge me, all of you guys out there. We are we are completely in this state of living in the country, very gun friendly up here. It's just completely different than the rest of California. And I homestead. And so homesteading's become a huge part of my life. I like to say I'm a first generation homesteader, but honestly, I grew up on a huge ranch. But it was just much different than just homesteading. It was very much, I mean, canning, gardening. We had cows, horses, sheep, goats. We didn't have chickens. My dad was not a big fan of chickens, but I am. And so it's just like this lifestyle that, I don't live on a 1,500-acre ranch like I grew up on. We have 18 acres, and I want to raise my girls in the outdoors. We're also homeschooling, so it's actually part of their education. Is this morning we woke up, we read books, and the girls cooked breakfast with me. So Olivia's 20 months old, and she's over here, and she gets to mix the eggs, and then Olivia gets to do them. She's almost 5. She gets to be at the stovetop. And it's just part of teaching them responsibility, teaching them about the outdoors, but also inside. Because I will admit that I was one of those women who was like, I can do it all. I have a career. I don't need to cook. I don't need this or that. And I've completely turned around in my 40s, and I love all of it, from canning to processing a deer, hunting, providing for my family, to being out in the garden, raising chickens, raising goats. And it's just kind of a process that we started including and filming in my everyday life. And of course, a big part of that is also firearms training. And so there's a lot of different facets. I don't just wear one hat. And LIVin Outdoors just kind of encompasses all of those. It's very much surrounding what we do here, and a little bit of, we have, and you're wearing a Gunsight shirt, 2 episodes coming up of our trip to Gunsight, where a lot of us, I think there was 20 women that I invited out for Girls with Guns clothing, and we did training. We trained in our tactical pants, we trained in our concealed carry wear, and it was just really day-to-day life, and trying to be able to handle your firearm in that situation. So it's a lot of bleed over from Girls with Guns clothing, of course, and we use, our gear, etc. But it's just really a lifestyle brand that we've created here in Northern California.
Yeah. And when you talk about the lifestyle brand, are you referring to Girls with Guns, or are you referring more to the LIVin Outdoors?
I guess both.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it's hard. They're kind of interchangeable, but for me, I wear all of my Girls with Guns. My lifestyle is the LIVin Outdoors, because we are outdoors. That's what we do. And it doesn't always have to be just hunting. And we found out in 2020 how much people were like, wow, I don't know how to grow my own food if the grocery stores don't have it. And so I had been gardening for my whole life, pretty much. Obviously as a kid, I don't remember all of the stuff that I learned, but really getting back into it and learning the natural, holistic way, but also trying to do everything without chemicals. I think one of the things that we're seeing so much sickness today is because there's so many chemicals out there in our food. And so that was just something that really spoke to me. And, my dad likes to tease me because he's like a good old ranch boy. He's like, well, why do you got to have that certain food or that certain seed? And I'm like, it's different. It is different than when we were growing up in the 80s. It's just such a different, like, commercialized. I like to, even if I can't grow something, I will like buy it from a local farmer, or I'll go down and just, check stuff out and see what the local people are selling and what they have. And so it's just really cool. We've been doing a lot. We do a lot of stuff with our chickens, but you have to imagine everything involves usually my firearms, hunting, processing, and, learning stuff with me too, because I don't know it all at all.
Right.
I grew up in a family where we were canning and all that stuff, but it's kind of was lost to me because, we're talking like, 30 years ago, I was doing that with my stepmom. And so it's different now. And I'm learning with my friends, and we're having fun on camera. And, I'm growing pumpkins, and my girls are loving that. And, like I said, raising goats and all kinds of stuff. So it's been a really fun homesteading journey that I'm able to document and share. And honestly, my kids are the stars. Like, nobody wants to watch me. I I was at SHOT Show, and everyone who stopped me was like, "Oh my gosh, I love watching your girls on social media." Everyone. And so it's like they're the ones who just make it, and they are amazing to watch and just see their excitement and them really growing too, because, Olivia, she'll be like, oh, out there playing with the baby chicks and talking to them. And she's teaching her sister because, she's only 20 months old and, how to handle them and everything. And I love seeing the growth.
Yeah. And I'm sure that your audience is loving that as well, as you said. Something that I'm curious about, I mean, just from me as a creator, I've had over the years, like I have hunting, fishing, shooting, ranching, like I have all these things that I share. And if everybody's like, you have to niche down, you have to niche down. And I'm like, well, actually, it's kind of growing because of what you said. Like more and more people are curious and they're interested and stuff like that. And you mentioned that you kind of came back to this lifestyle, which I've been seeing quite a few people kind of circling back around, or if they didn't grow up around it, they're wanting to learn. What do you think is causing this big movement?
Oh, I definitely think it is the state of our world. And, there's whispers all around of food and do you know where your food came from? Do you know these toxic chemicals and all of that stuff that we, everybody has an opinion on it. And, so there's so much surrounding it. But I really think it boils down to people want to know where their food and their meat come from, which we are avid hunters. I've hunted all over the world, tried meat from all over the world, processed my meat, and done all kinds of things. And what it comes back down to is just bringing it home to our families and feeding our families and filling the freezer. And we've been saying that for years. But so many other people, I see them, the people that were in the middle are crossing over. They're saying, okay, you're right. Yeah, I do want to know where my meat come from. And I have a lot of women who are reaching out and moms who are saying, can you teach me how to hunt? I really want to learn how to hunt. I'm really seeing that. And so we're actually planning kind of an introductory event for some women here locally, and we're going to do a pig hunt, and they're going to be able to just get out, spend a few days with me and some of my girls and learn about how to sight in a rifle, how to mount a scope. And we're also doing that whitetail hunting in Wyoming with myself and Christy Titus. So we've got just a couple different options for ladies to come out and learn. But people, I think, really honestly, I think that during the pandemic, it scared people. People got scared because they didn't know if the toilet paper wasn't the big issue. It was, am I going to have food? And I think here where like we live in the country and we have the ability to do that. And so I think everyone who was kind of like me, who was gardening and I have had chickens for 8 years, so that's not anything new to us, but we kind of like amped it up. I started figuring out how, because I usually buy chicks, and I was like, wow, well, we can hatch our own. So broody hens, and we started hatching our own chickens. That's an episode too. And it's so fun because my girls get to experience that and learn about it. And there's so much that's lost to our generation. Like I think it was about, because you're a Gen Xer too, right?
I think so.
I think so. Like our generation was like the first generation where we started not doing as much of the hands-on, and it's only become more and more. And such a controversial subject with moms. And of course, I'm an older mom, so screen time and this and that. But the kids have lost touch with reality of where their food comes from and harvesting it. And, without traumatizing Olivia, because she does love animals, we've started including her in that in bits and pieces. Started out with wild game. Okay, this is a deer, we're processing it. And from a very young age so that she could see it and understand it and not be scared of it. And sometimes she loses interest and she's like, no, thanks, Mom, I'm going to go do this and play with my friend. But then at other times, she's very much interested in that process. And so I don't push it. I just let it be a natural fit. Well, this is what Mom's doing. My 20-month-old thinks it's the coolest thing ever. And so I got to process 2 deer with them this fall. My nephew shot one, and then I shot one here locally. And so it was really neat just to see their different reactions and learning from it. And then the process is going through and then canning it, and then I'm sharing that on the show so that we can have shelf stable food in the event anything ever happens again. So it's just something that's really cool. And also, we know where our food comes from.
Yeah. And to me, that is super important. And I grew up a similar way to you. Even, I think when you and I first met, we talked about our hunting experiences and stuff like that. And it was very similar. And you just mentioned, you've mentioned so many things. Like I have all these questions going through my mind. Like there's so many. But when you're sharing this with your children, I just really admire that because over my shoulder here, there's a book and it's called Why Women Hunt and it's by KJ Houtman. And in that is a story about Leah and I. And for the listeners, give you a little backstory with Jen is with Girls with Guns that she mentioned. They used to sponsor a column that I wrote, and it was called Mia and the Little Gal. And it was about myself and my daughter growing up, raising her. And so this is why I was super excited. And not just the mom-daughter part, but living off the land, kind of like you said, during that pandemic, but another back step for the listeners is I went to high school and college in Southern California, in the city, which is what everybody kind of, when they think California, they think of the megalopolis there. Like it's just wall to wall people. And I moved from this little tiny area, to the big city. And it was like mind blowing. And so for you guys, if you ever go on vacation, go to Northern California. It's completely different. And it's something that I always have to explain to people is these are not the same. It's a different thing. So just keep that in mind. And when you come from a rural area, you have a different outlook and you also have different opportunities of where you can plant and have animals and all of that. But with your viewers, are you seeing people that are asking like, I live in a city, how can I plant or how can I raise food? Do you have that at all?
Yeah. So I get a ton of chicken questions, and then in the season, I do get like those types of gardening questions occasionally. I think a lot of my audience is more so people that do have a little bit of land, but I had one lady who was reaching out, just kind of asking some questions, and when we lived in town, we did like little planter boxes, and we did what we could, and there is so much that you can actually grow, and I start everything indoors. So like I'm a little bit behind because we had some gnarly bug and kids sick for like 3 weeks, but usually I plant in mid-February and I'm just getting ready to start. So I'll do all of my starts indoors from seed. So I'll kind of walk people through a process, and the goal is to get like a blog and have like a space where they can start looking at and sharing some of those things. And my Instagram, LIVin Outdoors, or the Jen O'Hara one are probably the best too, because I've been sharing this stuff for years, but I really, now that I'm doing LIVin Outdoors, I'm really trying to push everything there so that people can have that. We planted potatoes, like, there's certain crops that you may not be able to, but there is so much that you can do indoors. And so we'll just, if somebody reaches out to me, I always message them back. And I've just always been like that because I know I always had people helping me along the way with my Girls with Guns journey. And so I would love to, I like to be able to share with people and help them as well. And I wanted to add, Northern California, when you were talking about that, just so your listeners know, I came from a town with 400 people in it. So like most people are, that's why I always say, don't judge me because I know what people think, in the gun world or the hunting world. But we were a tiny little town. My dad still lives there. And we grew up on a 1,500 acre ranch. And where I live now is a huge ranching community. One of the biggest rodeos is here in California. I think it's the second largest, only to Salinas, the Red Bluff Roundup. And we have 13,000 people. So in our whole county, and it is ranching, hunting, outdoors, and that's just normal. I drive around with the truck with a big old buck on it that says Girls with Guns, and nobody gives me a second look. So
you're incognito that way.
Yeah.
So I want to ask you a little bit. You mentioned Olivia earlier, and that's one of your daughters. And so thinking about Olivia, when I first saw that you had created LIVin Outdoors, I actually thought it's LIV. I thought maybe you were doing live streams of what you're doing out there or something like that. Can you tell us about how the name came to be and the branding for that?
So when you look at our branding, it's LIV, capital LIV, and then IN, and then capital OUT, the rest. So Liv is, she goes by Liv, and she is one of the most incredible humans on this earth. And she's taught me so much about myself and just getting outdoors and getting back to my roots because I became a mom. And it honestly changed my entire life. I had gone from being this person who lived outdoors my whole life to kind of becoming obsessed with my career. And I was working all the time unless I was traveling and hunting, which I was doing that a lot too. But really, just getting back to being outdoors all the time. And Olivia is my inspiration for that because I didn't want her growing up indoors. I wanted her to grow up hiking and hunting and traveling. She travels with me when I go on hunts that I can take her. She's been to Hawaii for my axis hunt. She went to Wyoming for a mule deer hunt. My mom came and hung out with her. She was 6 weeks old, and I killed a turkey in the back, and she got to take pictures with me. My antelope hunt with my dad. So, I'm just always trying to include her. And now I have 2 of them, which makes it a little bit harder. But I am still doing the same thing, just including them in that every day. So some of the things that do make it easier, because it does get a little expensive to fly 2 kids and a nanny when you're hunting, out of state, is by doing everything that we do here at home. Liv's going to be old enough to be in 4-H this coming year, so she's just turning 5. So that's how the goats came about. We got 2 Nigerians, and then we ended up getting some rehomed Nubians. And then I started learning about the milking and breeding, and so it's on my bucket list this year. Right now, we're using them for lawnmowers and pets, and but we're learning the process so that maybe we can do cheese and some milk and, anything and everything that goes with it. So that's kind of a new journey for me. Raising our own chickens, of course, and doing that. We have a lot of that filmed. We also just doing different hunts. So like I said, whether I'm teaching women or I'm teaching kids, because I work with kids in the summertime. So I share some of those episodes with kids outdoor sports camps. And so what you said about a niche, I don't know how to do a niche because I don't have a niche. I mean, my niche is guns, and I love guns, but I love hunting, and I love being outside and gardening and homesteading and canning. I do it all. And I'm a mom. And if I have to say, one of my biggest passions that is another part of what I do is concealed carry and training. So I train men and women here every month, probably about 50 students a month. And I like to do videos on this is how we dress, because obviously I make clothing for women who conceal carry. And that is a huge passion of mine as well. And it came about because we started struggling here in California with people coming from out of prisons and coming up here where the weather is really nice and camping out in our backyards and crossing our property lines. And it has just become a little more dangerous in this really awesome ranching community than it used to be. And so, a lot of people say, oh, why don't you leave California? And I'm like, well, then who's going to stay here and fight for our Second Amendment? So just really working on that, but being a concealed carry instructor and working and teaching women, especially my customers. I have some really cool stuff coming this year. We'll have to talk later on after I launch this summer, some really neat stuff for our customers that's educational that I'm really excited about. But it's become a big passion of mine as well. So there is no niche. I don't understand niche. It just doesn't happen for me.
It's more like real life. And you just mentioned another thing that I had thought of earlier and it escaped me, but you talked about, people coming across your ranching community, and you're referring, to maybe prisons or, stuff like that, right? Well, I've always told people I carry more at home because we do live in a rural area. So if I call for a police officer to come, 20 minutes top, like that's the fastest they can get here if they are immediate, Something that we've seen, and it doesn't have to do with California, I live in Colorado, is a lot of the immigrants are coming and they're all over the place. And I actually had a very good friend who had a knife slit his throat. And it's on my website if you ever want to read the story, but it was an illegal immigrant. And then his fiance was left at home by herself, not knowing like what to do with a firearm. And so in the rural areas, they had a lot of deterrents that you would think, they had a long, dark driveway that most people wouldn't want to come up, but this guy did. They had hunting hounds that were all in their pens out front, loud dogs, and all these different things that didn't deter these bad people, And so learning to handle your firearm is so important. And really, honestly, like at home, I always have my gun, because I don't know what's going to happen here and who I'm going to get to come and save my life right away. Like I am my first responder.
100% agree with you. So, not only, and you can relate to this, am I 5 foot tall, but I have two little girls, and our response time is typically about 40 minutes, unless there is a deputy that's closer. So, one of the things that's really important to me is carrying on my property. So, we don't go outside without me carrying a firearm. It's something that's important, and my kids understand. We actually have just started in the last year really talking to Olivia more about guns and, not touching them, but also why mommy carries one. And that, because when we used to potty train, we go in the bathrooms together, and of course I would have my gun on me, and she'd be like, "Mommy, you shooting a gun?" And I'm like, okay, let's not announce that. So now she knows because I've normalized it. I don't hide it from her. And they've explained to her, this is so we can protect ourselves if we ever had to. Hopefully we never have to use that. But, I think it's important that our kids understand we don't hide things from them, but we explain to them. But always on my property, always have a gun. And I'm home a lot. My husband is not. He is gone 6 days a week, 12 hours a day, and he works. He owns his own business. So again, same thing. I am my own first responder.
Yeah. When I first heard that slogan, somebody was like, "That's so dumb." And I was like, "No, it's true. That's a real thing." And I mean, even in a metro area, you don't know how long it might take for help to arrive. So I think it's very important. And with your new branded, with LIVin Outdoors, you're sharing some of the concealed carry stuff and how to use it. What are some of the top things that you're sharing?
Outfit choices seem to be one of the biggest. And I think that's just always been. So I've been doing that for a couple years, but I'm sharing it now across those platforms. Now I share my Girls with Guns stuff because I believe in it. We build it. Always room for improvement. You've been in stuff with me and events with me where I'll always say we're always listening to our customers. We're improving and changing. I also share awesome new holsters and products that I love. Dry fire training. I'm currently using Laser Strike, and we are also, I love like my crossbreed modular because you have one of those. Those are
Yes,
awesome. So it goes everywhere with me because we build jackets and I can put them in my jackets. I can attach it to a purse because it's Velcro on the back, and I love it. It's Kydex. I use my sticky holster with my belly band, my sticky belly band, just all kinds of different products, and really just sharing how I carry and what I wear doing that. And people seem, that is probably some of the stuff that I get the most, I would say, viewership on is that. And some of my main homesteading and hunting stuff. Again, not a niche, but it's really a variety because it's truly who I am. And that's one of the things that I love to be able to do is all of this is real. It's just real life for me. I love concealed carry. I love figuring out clothing and making it better and the new best holster because you know what? Sometimes my clothes don't work, if you're wearing something else and trying those out and then sharing them with my audience, but being real and authentic about who that is. So I conceal carry, I hunt, I homestead, I raise my daughters. And so all of that is really just combined in LIVin Outdoors. So it's just authentically Jen. But like I said, it's not really about me. People really love the animals and the girls. They're the funnest to watch.
I can't imagine how many love the animals. I mean, we have our funny farm, we call it, but people love to see the animals. With the show itself, you already have some episodes that are out there, or how many do you have up?
So right now we're launching one a month. And so we started in January, and on the 15th of every month on Carbon TV, we're launching a new episode. And then we have corresponding reels that are going with them. Like this month is going to be our trip to Gunsight, so you'll see Mia as well. And next month will be Gunsight as well. It's a two-part. And basically some of the education around what we learned out there, I'll be putting out on social media in the reels. And then every month I have something new coming out. Pretty much there's always some type of gun content, whether our first episode was just our origin episode talking about where this idea came from and showing some of the highlights of the year. And then our episode 2 was, I mean, because I do everything overboard. I went out and shot a pig, a 200, probably close to 200-pound pig for my daughter's first birthday. Then we did a pig roast and a Hawaiian luau because, you know, who doesn't do that for a 1-year-old? And so it was just really fun little hunting episode with my family in it. And I kind of do life overboard. So that was just, you know, one of those fun things. And I'm like, gosh, we should film this. And so, you know, it was just kind of everything that was part of it as we're doing really neat things. I'm filming pretty much a lot of stuff, just our day to day, but also, you know, planning hunts and trips like our Wyoming hunt that's coming up in November. And then everything that I filmed this year will launch next year. So I'll be launching a total of 12 episodes this year. And it's a lot, but it's awesome. And I really just love being able to share this content. It's fun, it's authentic, and some of it's super educational and being able to teach people stuff as I learn. So they're coming along with me. Some stuff I know, but, you know, obviously, we never stop learning. My grandma used to always say that when we stop learning, we're dead. So whether it's, I've been gardening most of my life, but I'm trying to really learn how to be able to let my broccoli go to seed so that I can collect the seeds so that I don't need to go out and purchase seeds in the future. Those are kind of the things that I'm starting to really get into, taking it to the next step. Or even, you know, some people are like, hey, I always just go to Home Depot and I buy my starts. I used to do that too. And then I'm starting them from seeds. So I'm actually filming that now. Last year I did sweet potatoes. We got probably 100 sweet potatoes. They're still out in my shop. I just go with my little grocery bag and grocery shop every week and pull from my pumpkins and my sweet potatoes and my spaghetti squash because they last like 6 months out there.
And you're sharing with your viewers about like how to store them and how to cure them and different things like that as well. And I was just thinking a lot of technology has kind of evolved too. I mean, it's not super technical now, but I'm sure there's different stuff now than there was when you were a child.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had a pump house when I was a kid, but we also didn't live where it was 110 most of the summer. So we really struggle here because even in the house, it's, you know, 75 degrees, 76 degrees, because you just can't afford to cool your house down to where it needs to be. So it was like 50 degrees in our pump house growing up. All of our canned goods were out there. So we are actually, I'm really excited about this. I just told my husband my idea, and so I'm sure he's thrilled too. More work.
He's so excited.
He's so excited. He loves it. He actually does really, truly love it. He just doesn't love when I film him at all. But he's a big trooper.
Same with mine.
Really, yeah. See, you understand. But we have a shop, and our shop is really well insulated because when our house was being built, the people who built it lived in the shop temporarily. So I am actually we're going to finish sheeting in the bathroom, and I'm going to cut out a little window. We're going to get a little unit in there, and I'm going to make it my little storage, my root cellar. So one of the cool things about having a root cellar is that I can store stuff through the summertime, especially when it's hot here. I did try to convince my husband to dig me one in the ground that we could build, and So this is a lot easier because if we sheet in that bathroom and put a little unit in it, it's where we can store them, they can breathe, and then I can take my onions and my potatoes. I can have seed potatoes because by the time I got to planting this fall, my potatoes were just mush. They didn't make it. So it's really neat. I think that's one of my biggest things is wanting to go and being able to do it all on my own. It's so much harder. And I will tell you, there's times where I end up at Home Depot because my tomatoes didn't make it, or my none of my squash made it. They just didn't grow this year for some reason. So, I mean, just for each of us, I think that's just something that happens. And then naturally, I try not to use any pesticides. So I'm using like neem oil and diatomaceous earth, and so it's a completely different than how I grew up. And honestly, I don't really remember, but my grandparents had a huge garden, and I'm like, did you guys spray like Roundup and stuff? Like, I just don't know, but I'm trying to get away from that and not using toxins and just being really natural in the process and just getting back to my roots that way.
And did they spray any pesticides? Because my mom didn't ever spray when we were kids, but
I think so. But honestly, I can't remember. My grandparents passed when I was 18 and 19, but they literally had a 1 acre garden. They were also retired. But they had a 1 acre garden and it was amazing. And so I would always go out and help. And, so a lot of that I love. I think they would just love this part of my life and seeing my girls, doing what we're doing. They get out there and we were picking weeds in the onions the other day, and Chloe's got like a mini shovel and she's over here digging, and I'm like, all right, you dug up an onion. It's okay. It's okay. And you just got to let it go and just let them be a part of the process. And it does happen. Occasionally if they pull up something, I'm like, ah! But for the most part, I just let them just be in because somebody let me, be involved and just do it. And so I just love that part of it.
right. And I was recently interviewed on a podcast by a newer mom. Her children are younger than yours, but I kind of explained to her that's how the kids learn, is you take them and they learn. If you don't take them, they're never going to know. So, I mean, you do have some things that, okay, I wish that wouldn't have happened, but it's a learning experience. So, just take it and keep going. And I think for any parents, that's super important lessons to learn, is just that's the teaching moment. Doesn't mean we need to be angry teachers. We can be nice teachers too.
Do you know how many broken eggs we've had? I couldn't even tell you. And even sometimes I have like Liv's friends come over, and that's what they want to do. The kids that are, in town and don't get, the country life, they're like, oh, we want to go do chicken eggs. And so Liv's excited to go and show them. And I'm like, okay, well, let them do it. And, then they're like, whoops, and I'm like, it's okay. Because I've learned now, I just feed them back to my chickens, and it's just part of the process, and it's good for them. And but at first, I was always like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, well, and especially with the price of eggs there for a while.
Gosh, I know.
That was $5 you just threw on the ground.
Well, and that's the thing. Even doing what we do, my husband and I were figuring it out, and it's like we don't really save money, but our eggs are delicious. So we just recently had 3 raccoons massacre some of our chickens. It was devastating. I cried. We're trapping them. We'd already trapped 2, so I felt like it was retribution for the 2 that we trapped. But it's just one of those things that happens. We go out every single night and we make sure that our door, because we have an automatic door. I have 2 young children, so I can't like leave dinner and always just go out back there. And so my husband was there at 6:00, and of course it was dark at like 4:45 then. And they'd gotten in, and all but 6 were left, and I was like devastated. And when you go through something like that, it's so hard because yes, they serve a purpose, but they're also your pets. And, I have to share that with my daughter. And Olivia actually prays for the chickens every night. So, because we have had a run of bad luck, which is why we're getting a dog. And so, fun stuff. It's just part of the process that we can help teach people while we learn. We have a great coop. It's been fortified, never had an issue before, but sometimes we rely on technology and that's what happens.
Yeah. And so we have an automatic door on ours too. And Leah's a trapper, you know that. Like, I mean, she manages the predators pretty well. We still have predators on our property, but what she has to deal with actually are the ravens. They come in during the day and raid the nest, and they fly out with the eggs. And so that's something we haven't gotten figured out yet. Even like the fake eggs, to encourage them to lay in there, the ravens will take them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I don't have that, but I do have hawks. So we have hawks, fox, skunks. I've caught a skunk at dark, um, in my coop with an egg in his hand looking at me when I shine the flashlight. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna back away. So I don't want to get sprayed. And we trap all the time. We have a constant, two traps that are constantly baited and ready. And sometimes we have great luck. Right now, we have not had any luck. And, it's just one of those things where you have to protect. And so, my biggest thing, and I've been really looking and researching, but it's a ton of work, is getting a livestock guard dog. And so, I think that's going to be a really fun episode where I can share what that looks like, starting our journey. And one of the cool parts about doing these episodes is like, I started my sweet potato filming in February and I finished it in November, and that's one episode. So it'll be the same thing with the dog. It's like I can start and then, it'll be finished a year later of filming. And then you get like a really cool episode with, but it's also not too long with the episodes. I mean, typically I'm under 10 minutes. Let's be real. None of us like to sit down for very long. And and because it's a digital series, a lot of people are watching on their phones. And so I think that people just really want that short, sweet, to the point. And so that's what I try to do.
Yeah.
And then I share highlights in my stories and reels and stuff.
And so, can you tell us a little bit about the show? Where do we watch it and how do we find it?
So we are on Carbon TV. So if you go to carbontv.com and you search LIVin Outdoors, just LIVin Outdoors, and you can find us there. We are also on Instagram under LIVin Outdoors 1 and on Facebook under LIVin Outdoors. I can definitely, let me see. Oh, and then we have LIVin Outdoors website. So livinoutdoors.com.
Okay. And with the website and stuff, or Carbon TV, do we have to be a member to watch it there, or is it?
You don't. So one of the cool things is if you want to sign up, you can. And that way you can rate us. It's always awesome if people rate us. We're actually already an 8.5 out of 10. And I've only been on for 2 months. So I feel really great about that. But you do not have to do that. You can actually go on and just watch, even if you're not signed in.
Cool. Well, I'm excited to watch more episodes. I of course watched I think it's the first one with your daughter's birthday hunt, and so they are super fun, and I really look forward to everything else that you have coming. And I'm gonna have to be on social media more so I can see all of your reels and shorts and stuff. It's so hard to catch everything. So
I know. I feel the same way. It's one of those things where everybody's going in so many different directions. It's hard to keep up.
It really is. It really is. And you're sitting here telling me all the things you're doing with the show, and I'm like, I don't know how you have time and how you do keep up. Are you self-filming, or who's filming for you? Is Narissa?
So we do a little bit of both. So I self-film a lot of the stuff with the girls, and I actually do use a tripod and self-film myself. And then I have a nanny who comes 2 days a week so I can really work and be in my office all day. And she stays with my girls. And then she will film me if we're doing stuff, but it has to kind of be that fit, or my mom. But then when I do events, like when we go to gun site or when I go on hunts, I hire a cameraman and they come out with me. So this year I'll be going actually on an elk hunt in Canada. It's been like 6 years in the making, but between having two babies and the pandemic, we just haven't made it work. And so I'm going to do a backcountry hunt, and so I have a cameraman coming with me there. And when I'm doing stuff at the range, I hire a cameraman and they'll come in. But it really just depends, because like when I'm doing everyday life, it's kind of like I do hand the phone to my husband sometime, but that's kind of scary. It's usually my head's cut off. He'd kill me for saying that.
Oh, Hank does that to me too. I'm like my biggest archery bull ever. I look at the pictures later and like the antlers are missing. And I'm like, I know I'm in the picture, but how can I tell what kind of bull this is? We got to
I
do this all
know.
over.
Yeah, you're like, yes,
I know
no,
that you like
we
me
go
and
through.
you got my picture.
Yeah, it's just when they're not into that. And it's okay. Like John loves and supports so much what I do, because I'll tell you what, it is so nice being home and being able to film something that I love and that I'm passionate. Not that we traveled all over the world, Narissa and I did. And she will come and film for me anytime I need her to. And we have tons of experience because we filmed each other over the years. But to be able to do this with my girls and just kind of like, girls with guns, living outdoors, kind of have like my own little legacy for them, whatever they want to do with this as the next generation, that'll be for them to decide. But it's kind of fun just building up something for them.
It's so cool. And gosh, everybody's going to grow up with them and we'll get to see them from teeny tiny to when they're getting married.
Oh my gosh. It's going to happen like tomorrow. That's what it feels like.
Mm-hmm. It does. It goes by so quickly. Well, I want to thank you for sharing the show with us and letting us know about it. And I hope that the listeners will go and subscribe to the show, but also on your social media, because you do share fun social media. If you have future things that you want to share, if there's anything new, let us know. Give us a shout, because I am always excited to see where you go and how it evolves. It's super fun.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
Did you want to give any shout outs to any of the sponsors for your show? Because I know having a show, it does, you're talking about time and travel and all of that. Can you tell us about some of the sponsors?
Yes. So my presenting sponsor is Ruger Firearms, and I am so blessed to be with Ruger for the past 10 years. The best firearms in the industry. And one of the things that I love about them is it can be from home defense to hunting rifles, stuff that I just like to go out and blink with, or my concealed carry, or even, I love carrying my revolver with snake shot in it in the summertime. So many different options, so many reliable firearms, and they are amazing and they're like family to me, and I absolutely love their products. They've just been really great to work with. And we are also working with Laser Strike. So Laser Strike is a dry fire training system, and I met them a couple years ago at the California CCW conference. And what an amazing product that's really simple and price-wise, really an awesome addition to what we're going to be offering on our website. They're actually going to be on the LIVin Outdoors website. And I actually just did my first video and announcement. And so if they check out my Instagram at GWGGen or the LIVin Outdoors, they can go and they can see those products there.
Outstanding. Well, I'm going to go give that one a look too, because I didn't see that yet. So
of course, Girls with Guns clothing. So
yeah.
I didn't even, usually I start off with Girls with Guns, but we just kind of went right into it. But Girls with Guns, my best friend and I started, 16, almost 17 years ago in our garage. And we become a nationwide company. And we are super proud to make women's hunting, outdoor, casual, and concealed carry wear apparel.
Well, thank you again. I sure do appreciate it. I always love talking with you.
All right. You too, Mia. Thank you.
Hey, this is Lloyd Bailey, the Armed Lutheran, host of the Armed Lutheran Radio podcast, reminding you that the podcast you're listening to is a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. Check out all the great content at selfdefenseradio.net.